Welcome to Seasons News as we bring you top stories making rounds in the Christian communities across the world. African religious leaders demand debt cancellation for 2025 Jubilee year. ECOWAS court orders Nigeria to reform blasphemy laws amid human rights concerns. Churches sue Trump administration over ICE raids in houses of worship. My name is Akudo Udoka Wokore. Here are the top stories this week and more. Religious leaders across Africa are calling for the cancellation of the continent's crippling debt. In a joint letter to the United Kingdom government, African Anglican bishops warned that unsustainable private debt is causing immense suffering, diverting funds from health, education, and climate action. Backed by major Christian organizations, the Jubilee 2025 Africa Debt Cancellation Campaign is demanding not just debt relief, but a complete overhaul of the global financial system. Inspired by the biblical year of Jubilee, the campaign highlights that African nations spent over $85 billion servicing debt in 2023 alone, far more than an essential services. Church leaders argue that this debt crisis is a moral issue and a modern form of slavery made worse by the COVID-19 pandemic and global instability. They are calling on the G20, IMF, World Bank, and especially the United Kingdom to act now in reforming lending laws, ensure financial justice, and give Africa a chance to thrive. Let's take a look at the highlights from this program.
The Holy Father has guided us to translate this spiritual call into concrete social action, where he has called upon the human family to consider resetting, reorganizing economies, societies for the well-being of all. The bishops have been meeting for their plenary, and in this context, one of the issues they dealt with is the question of how to drive the agenda of the Jubilee 2025, which includes the debt cancellation campaign.
Kenya's Senate has raised concern over the government's plan to phase out nearly 1,000 children's homes nationwide by 2032, urging caution and demanding a clear strategy for vulnerable children. The plan aims to shift 70% of institutionalized children to family-based care by 2027, but senators warn that without proper safeguards, many children could face neglect. During an April 17 section, Senator Esther Ayeni questioned whether there is a national policy, adequate funding, or support system like shelters and counseling. Labour Minister Alfred Mutua clarifies that only non-compliant homes will shut, though licenses are still being issued. While grounded in the National Care Reform Strategy and global child welfare standards, the move faces criticism from church leaders and caregivers who fear rushing the transaction could put children at risk. Experts highlight that institutional care can hinder development, but stress that reintegration must be done with care, especially for children with no traceable families. The Christian community is urged to support family-based care through funding and volunteering. Some pictures. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS Court, has ordered Nigeria to reform or repeal its blasphemy laws, particularly in Kano State, citing violation of international human rights standards. The ruling condemned sections of the Kano State Panel and Sharia courts prescribing the death penalty for blasphemy as excessive and disproportionate in a democratic society. The directive follows mounting international concern over religious persecution in northern Nigeria, highlighted by the 2022 killing of Deborah Emmanuel, a Christian student murdered by a mob in Sokoto for a WhatsApp message expressing her faith. Despite arrest, no one has been held accountable, and her cousin, who witnessed the attack, remained in hiding. Sharia-based blasphemy laws remain active in 12 northern states, often clashing with Nigeria's constitutional protections and the country's dual legal system. Kano State has rejected ECOWAS ruling, insisting the law reflects the religious values of its people. Human rights advocates have praised the ECOWAS decision as a necessary step towards safeguarding freedom of expression and religious tolerance in Nigeria. We'll go on a quick break right now, and we'll be back shortly.
Hi guys, did you know God made you wonderfully special? Yup, in the beginning, He made us boys and girls, each with a purpose. Sometimes, the world tells us confusing things, but guess what? We can always trust what God says in His Word. You're fearfully and wonderfully made, just the way God designed you. Let's make good choices and honor God with our bodies. God's design is perfect, just like you.
Welcome back from our short break. 5 Nigerian youths, once confined in the hardships of IDP camps in Adamawa State and the waterfront slums of Makoko, Lagos, have emerged as international champions at the 12th Annual Chess and Community Conference in Athens, Georgia. Their inspiring stories reveal a different narrative of Nigeria, one where education, mentorship, and resilience open doors to global recognition. At the heart of their transformation is Chess in Slum Africa, a grassroots initiative led by visionary founder Tunde Onakoya. Through the power of chess, a game rooted in critical thinking and discipline, these young minds have defied the odds, proving that talent can thrive anywhere given the right opportunity. Let's take a look at the video.
Chess players, a thing or two about strategy and resilience. His journey took a dramatic turn when he was introduced to chess by the renowned philanthropist and national treasure Tunde Onakoya, the founder of Chess in Slums Africa. And what started as an escape from bullying became his battleground for dignity. Chess has given him a voice, a purpose, and a fighting chance to rewrite his story. Today, he isn't just playing, he's competing at a global chess conference in the US, standing alongside Tunde Onakoya's team of brilliant young players from Makoko. And the world is taking notice. And Nigerians both home and abroad are rallying behind Tunde and the team of young dreamers.
A wave of violence continues to hit Benue State as armed Fulani militants killed 72 people in coordinated attack across Gwe West County. Among the victims was the family of the 29-year-old medical graduate Samuel Asei Udam, whose 5 brothers were gunned down in Abo Vangav in Udam village. Governor Hyacinth Aliyu declared the crisis a national emergency, urging the federal government to intervene amid rising casualties and mass displacement. Over 80 villages have been attacked this year alone, leaving more than 3,000 displaced, according to International Human Rights Commission. Survivors say the attackers made several chants and spoke in various languages, confirming their jihadist identity. The traditional ruler of Gwe West, Chief Daniel Abonse, said all 15 wards except 2 are now under militant control. In a separate incident near Nakam, 19 passengers were abducted by Fulani herdsmen. As farmlands are abandoned and local forces overwhelmed, fears of a full-blown humanitarian disaster loom large. On April 3rd, David Washume, a 38-year-old evangelist in eastern Uganda, was stabbed to death after leading several Muslims to faith in Christ during an open-air event. Along with fellow evangelist Fred Wapuhulu, Washume has been preaching incorporating both Quranic verses and biblical references, which sparked a response from many Muslims who accepted Christ. As they returned home that evening, the two were attacked by 3 masked men who demanded their bags. Washume was restrained and killed, while Wapuhulu managed to escape. His body was later found in a pool of blood near a Bible college chapel. This tragic event is part of a growing trend of Christian persecution in Uganda, despite the country's constitution guaranteeing the religious freedom. Washume's death highlights the risk faced by evangelists and believers across the Sahel region. Let's take another ministry break right now, and when we return, we will continue with the rest of the story. We're back from our break. Here are the rest of the story. In a legal battle over immigration enforcement, a coalition of churches, a non-profit and interfaith group has filed a complaint against the Trump administration for allowing immigration raids in houses of worship. The lawsuit filed Monday in Oregon argued that the administration's policy violates the First Amendment rights of the churches, which have been considered safe haven under federal law. The complaint highlights the Religious Freedom Restoration Act and the Administrative Procedure Act, asserting that the policy disrupts the core missions of these organizations. Plaintiffs in the case include churches from Oregon, California, and Florida, along with the Interfaith Council of San Francisco, while DHS and ICE are named as defendants. The administration recently rescinded a policy from the Obama era that prohibited immigration enforcement in sensitive areas like churches and schools. In response, DHS maintains that the new directive is necessary to prevent criminals from exploiting places of worship. Despite this, earlier court rulings have favored the government, noting that such raids are rare, with only a few incidents recorded since the policy change. The legal challenge adds to the ongoing debate over balancing immigration enforcement and religious freedoms in the United States of America. The phrase, "back to Jerusalem," has become closely tied to China's church's global mission, suggesting that China will send the gospel westward through regions dominated by Buddhism, Islam, and Hinduism. However, this narrative has been criticized for overemphasizing China's role and overshadowing the broader story of God's mission across the global church. A Chinese believer reflects on the Louisiana Congress, pointing out the unrealistic expectations this movement creates in China's church and its geographical theology. In reality, the immigration of Chinese Christians offer a more complex perspective, with many living for opportunities but still playing a part in the global missions. As these Christians engage with different churches and cultures, they can broaden their view of the Great Commission, moving beyond reaching just other Chinese to impacting nations worldwide. Ultimately, the church's role in evangelization is more about intentionality and responding to the Spirit's call than reaching any other destination. Christians across Australia prayed for godly leadership as Prime Minister Anthony Albanese won re-election with a Labour Party majority. Early results showed a shift away from the Liberal National Coalition, with Peter Dutton conceding defeat. Albanese highlighted the nation's choice for fairness, optimism, and determination in challenging times. Voters' sentiment focused on issues like cost of living, healthcare, and housing, with the Labour government emphasizing social stability and renewable energy. The revival of the Indigenous voice of Parliament was a divisive topic, with critics pushing back against Labour's continued support. Ahead of the election, Christian groups prayed for the wisdom and leadership, with leaders like Michelle Pearce of the Australian Christian Lobby asking for truth and righteousness to prevail. The election saw a high voter turnout, and Albanese now faces the task of addressing domestic challenges, including climate action and economic fairness. These are all the stories we have on today's news. Stay informed, stay faithful. My name is Akudo Udoka Mokore.